assortedproductions.com.
What's up? This is Chuck Diesel from chuckdieselproductions.com. And today I'm going to teach you how to mix some drums. Everything here in black is drums. I made this beat in about an hour. And what I'm going to do today is show you how to beef up your drums a little bit without harming the entire track itself. I'm going to play this track back to you with all the drums unmixed, and I'm going to remix them in order to show you how to get some banging drums. Let's get banging, boys. Alright, first thing I noticed, you can't hear the 808s, the snares are too quiet, everything sounds unbalanced and unmixed. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to play it back with no drums, assuming all the instruments are at decent positions. And I'm just going to solo them in and make them fit right. I'll show you what I'm doing here. I'm going to play it back with no drums from right around the hook area, which is right here. Let's hear what it sounds like. Alright, so now we kind of have a positioning system. Let's arm this kick here. Now, the trick with the kick is you want the kick to be somewhere in between -8 and -10 dB. Let's see what it does here. Alright, it's in a decent position. Now I'll show you what I did to mix it. First, you throw a compressor on, obviously, because the kicks are going to be slamming, going real fast in random spots. You don't want that to peak out your track, so let's see what we got here. You see it's got about 3 dB of gain reduction. Obviously I preset all these. You can check them out. Okay, so the kick doesn't look too bad. Now let's see what that looks like. Obviously I pre-EQ'd this too. With the kicks you want to find where the frequency is thumping the most and cut it off right after. You see there's a downward slope here. If I pulled this out, it'll keep going. Anything under 50 is just rumble. So let's kind of even that up to our music here. Alright, so the kick's not too bad. Alright, second thing you do is let's put in the regular snares. So I have a snare and I have a clap. This is just a regular traditional snare. We'll start with a snare and try to get it loud enough. Let's see what we got here. Alright, as you can hear, the claps or the snare is very unmixed. It sounds like crap. Let's play with that one in the kick. I'm going to loop this back. What I have here is a compressor, which for some reason I always throw on first just so I can get all the smashingness of it down, and then I can take the EQ and EQ out the rest of it. So let's see where I'm sitting at with my compressor here on this snare. Obviously the snare is very quiet. don't want to take away too much of the dynamics from the snare. Still kind of quiet. Okay. Right in the sweet spot. Leave it a little room there. Sounded not too bad. Now let's merge that with our clap. Turn the kick off. Just kind of get our clap rocking here. So, compress the clap. And I want this clap really crispy. Turned up the release, turned up the attack. Big ratio. It's a little bit too much. About 5 dB of gain reduction should be fine. Now notice the last snare that I had cut at 500, or peaked at 500. This one's peaking at 1,000. So I'm going to cut this one at 500 and peak this one at 1,000. So now I have to go back to my snare and cut this one at 1,000. Just a little bit. You want them to balance. Now my clap sounds dry, sounds quiet. I'm going to add a little reverb. This is the Waves True Verb, one of my favorite reverbs. It whoops ass. New York plate setting, you can kind of play with it. So let's blend them together. Add the kick back in. Doesn't sound too bad. Now, let's get to the hi-hats. Obviously, we're going to put the 808s in last. The hi-hats, you always pan them a little bit off to the left. I'll show you how to EQ these hi-hats real quick. So let's play this with everything that we have so far drum-wise. You can hear the hi-hats right now. If you pull the frequency on the hi-hats, you're looking at got a little boost around 8,000, which is a little high. Just to make them real high-pitched and snappy. Cut off all the garbage. Pan them to the left. Depending on how loud you want them. It's kind of a trap beat, so make them a little louder. Okay, that doesn't sound too bad. Okay, I have 3 more little pieces here. First is this under snare, which the under snare is just kind of the complement snare to the main snare and clap. Here's how it goes. It's hitting around 5K, boosted around 5K, which is fine. The reason why I say this is fine is because you can pan this. So let's say I want it to come in from the right side. Also, you have to be listening to headphones to understand that. Okay, that doesn't sound too bad. I normally don't compress those because you kind of want them to stick out a little bit and they're not really slamming into each other. Next, let's go with the snare rolls. Snare rolls are just little pieces that go from the choruses to the hooks or mid-choruses. And for these snare rolls, they kind of sound like garbage right off the bat, so just bear with me here. Okay, so the snare rolls, I have them pan hard left. I have a compressor. negative 4 dB of gain reduction should be fine for those. Now let's see where they're hitting on the equalizer. I'm just going to guess. The idea here is you want to keep everything on its own frequency wavelength. You don't want any frequencies slamming into each other and causing chaos throughout your mix. Okay, so now that we have those pieces done, let me just check the volume on that. If you notice, you have the under snare going to the right, the snare roll going to the left. It just creates random suspense during those breakdown parts. Now let's go to the cymbal. I have a ride cymbal, which basically, obviously there's no EQ on this yet. I'm going to put one on there. I'm just going to kind of make it work in the mix. As you can see, there's a lot of fat here we have to trim off. I'd probably say around 6K. It's a little hump, do a cutoff. That way it only hits that frequency. Remember, we have the hi-hats coming in around 8. So you want to create a new one here and take 8 out of the mix. Just a little. Pan those to either left or right. It's kind of your decision. I'm just going to go right. Screw it. Oh, shit. Okay. Another little percussion that I added is tubular bells, which basically go with the harmony of the song. I'm going to cut everything and just play the tubular bells with the main melody, and I'll show you. You can't just put random tubular bells in there. It's going to sound like complete trash. All right, so here we go. Sounds like a fucking crazy ass death bell is what it sounds like. Now let's see where this thing's hitting on the equalizer. But you have to check all the instruments because you don't want instruments just floating around. That's just retarded. There's a low end. It's in between 1 and 2K. Okay. Last but not least, let's get to the 808. So what this 808 is, yes, this is a Superstar 808, and I pray to God that he doesn't come back and sue me. But, and they're not tuned. I mean, I wrote the song in the key that they were tuned at, but, you know what? I'll go through that with you too. So this 808, I have a little setting here. It's like a guitar tuner. It's called a tuner. And you can find out what the key is of the 808. So let's hear it rump. So it's repeating G. Obviously the song is written in G, so it matches, but if you just make a random one, it might not. The first thing I did with the 808 is compress it, because the 808s are constantly thumping. So let's see what I did. Ratio's 5:1. I want this around 3 decibels of gain reduction. let's see what happened with the EQ here, because this is where shit gets tricky. I'm going to take this off just for example. You can see it's hitting around 50. The low end is a little bit, I'd probably say around 45. So I'm going to cut that off at 45. You can just hear how it changes. The trick here is to get this to match the kick, because an 808 is just a subdivision of a kick. So let's listen to our kick right here and see where the frequencies are. So we cut it off at 45. I'd probably say, you know what, I have this boosting at 74. I'll bring it over to 65 just to make it a little deeper. Have it boosted at 65. So if I pump this 808 at 50, it's not going to be clashing with this kick drum. Remember, I have that at 60, what is it, 65. So I'm going to turn this 808 back on. There's still a little bit of battle going on there between the 808 and the kick. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut this at 66. Real steep cut. I'm going to boost it at 50, a tad. Real steep cut. 52 is fine. Doesn't sound too bad. Okay, the last thing I did to the 808 is I put an ultra maximizer on it. And what this does is this slams the 808 to the ceiling and makes this thing really knock. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to start this thing at 0, and I'm just going to play the 808 back, and I'll just let you hear what it does exactly. That's our standard 808. Now I'm going to pull down this threshold, and you're going to hear this thing get louder and harder. Now, I do not recommend cranking it that hard, because that's just idiotic. And if you crank anything too hard, it's going to sound like crap. I'm going to pull it where I had it. And I'm just going to start here. I'll do it from scratch. So about 6 dB of gain reduction there. If you see on the side, it's really hitting hard. So I'm going to blend this back in with the kick. Now watch the meter. The meter's back at 3. So let's just make sure, hope that's an accident. The sub is too loud. Pull the sub back down. So you're at 4 dB. You can see the loudest thing right now is our 808. So let's play the entire drum kit back and see what it sounds like. The 808 is way too loud. Pull that 808 down and just kind of get a feel with it. Now the drums sound real even and balanced, which is what you want. Now let's go back. I'll have another video for how to make your tracks mastered and how to make everything loud and obnoxious. This right here is just a mix, and obviously it's pretty good. It's about peaking at about 2.6 is what it's showing, and which is not too bad. So I'm going to play it back from the top. Let's see how it sounds, and thank you for watching. ChuckDieselProductions.com, motherfucker. Thanks for watching, Superstar O. Don't sue me. And peace out, bitch!